Day 87, Tuesday, January 31st. Exodus 10. Exodus 10 1-29 NKJV. Now the Lord said to Moses, Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his servants, that I may show these signs of mine before him, and that you may tell in the hearing of your son and your son's son the mighty things I have done in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that you may know that I am the Lord. So Moses and Aaron came into Pharaoh and said to him, Thus says the Lord God of the Hebrews, How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. Or else, if you refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your territory, and they shall cover the face of the earth, so that no one will be able to see the earth. And they shall eat the residue of what is left, which remains to you from the hail, and they shall eat every tree which grows up for you out of the field. They shall fill your houses, the houses of all your servants, and the houses of all the Egyptians, which neither your fathers nor your fathers' fathers have seen, since the day that they were on the earth to this day. And he turned and went out from Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh's servants said to him, How long shall this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Do you not yet know that Egypt is destroyed? So Moses and Aaron were brought again to Pharaoh, and he said to them, Go, serve the Lord your God. Who are the ones that are going? And Moses said, We will go with our young and our old, with our sons and our daughters, with our flocks and our herds we will go, for we must hold a feast to the Lord. Then he said to them, The Lord had better be with you when I let you and your little ones go. Beware, for evil is ahead of you. Not so. Go now, you who are men, and serve the Lord, for that is what you desired. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come upon the land of Egypt, and eat every herb of the land, all that the hail has left. So Moses stretched out his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind on the land all that day and all that night. When it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts, and the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt and rested on all the territory of Egypt. They were very severe. Previously there had been no such locusts as they, nor shall there be such after them. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened, and they ate every herb of the land and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left. So there remained nothing green on the trees or on the plants of the field throughout all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste, and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore, please forgive my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God, that he may take away from me this death only. So he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord. And the Lord turned a very strong west wind, which took the locusts away and blew them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the territory of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go. Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, darkness which may even be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. Then Pharaoh called to Moses and said, Go, serve the Lord, only let your flocks and your herds be kept back. Let your little ones also go with you. But Moses said, You must also give us sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. Our livestock also shall go with us, not a hoof shall be left behind. For we must take some of them to serve the Lord our God, and even we do not know with what we must serve the Lord until we arrive there. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, "Get away from me. Take heed to yourself and see my face no more. For in the day you see my face you shall die." So Moses said, "You have spoken well. I will never see your face again." Daily Deep Dive. Eighth Plague. The UCG reading plan states the following. By this point, Pharaoh's servants are attempting to impress on him that Egypt is destroyed, Exodus 10:7. So he resorts to bargaining with Moses once again. But as he will not accede to God's demands, a mighty wind brings an infestation of locusts on the land. The results are horrible to behold. Whatever vegetation had been left after the hail is now devoured by the locusts. The land is stripped bare. It must have been a wonder to look out over what was once a fertile, bountiful land and to no longer see the color green among the plants. Verse 15. Again, Seth, Neper, Osiris and Isis are all defied, as are Shu, god of the air, and Amun, god of the wind. This terrible plague must have left the nation on the brink of starvation. In desperation, Pharaoh even confesses sin and asks forgiveness, outwardly. But his contrition is short-lived. By now, Moses may have become accustomed enough to Pharaoh's stubbornness so as to not be surprised when, once again, Pharaoh changes his mind about releasing the Israelites. And, verse 11, Pharaoh would not let all the Israelites go. Verse 12 to 14. We saw previously that the hail did major damage, but not all was yet lost. The locust would finish off the rest of the fruit and food-producing plants. Verse 19. The might and power of God again clearly demonstrated in the detail of absolute control, that not even a single locust remained behind. Ninth Plague. The UCG reading plan brings out the following regarding this plague. Here is a plague that lasted for 3 days. People could not even leave their homes due to the impact of this event. Comparable to being in a dark closet with even the cracks around the door being covered. This was a major attack on the credibility of the Egyptian sun god, known variously as Re, Ra, Atum, Aten and sometimes Horus. Indeed, though the Egyptians worshipped many gods, none was worshipped as much as the sun. Consider, too, that as much as eclipses were feared in the ancient world, this 3-day darkness must have been terrifying beyond belief. Once again, it did not affect the Israelites living in Goshen. Pharaoh again attempts to make a deal by keeping the animals of the Israelites that were not affected by the plagues in Egypt. After all, the food supply of the Egyptians was now at a critical stage, so to him it was not really an unreasonable demand. But before God, Pharaoh was in no position to be making demands. Yet he was angry, to the point of threatening Moses with death if he would not get out of his sight. And, verse 21, regarding darkness that may even be felt, here's what Jamieson Fawcett Brown adds. Whatever secondary means were employed in producing it, whether thick clammy fogs and vapors, according to some, a sandstorm, or the chamson, according to others, it was such that it could be almost perceived by the organs of touch, and so protracted as to continue for 3 days. And, verse 23, unlike the Egyptian dark world, the Israelites, God's people, had light. Does this parallel our world now? Verse 24, Pharaoh just won't let them go fully. He's maybe willing to compromise, which he sees as a win. Pharaoh is a type of Satan. In what ways is Satan willing to compromise with us? Where he's comfortable with a certain level of obedience with us, as long as he can get us to compromise in some ways to not fully obey God. Verse 26, no compromise here. Not a hoof shall be left behind. Verse 28, Josephus records that Pharaoh threatened to cut off his, Moses, head if he came any more to him.